I suppose since I would say around about the 1960s, 1970s, possibly even earlier, there's been a great interest in what might be called positive thinking. Positive thinking makes a fundamental error because although it indicates an infinite possibility in mankind, it's still taking the human in a limited way as just a psychophysical entity. That is, somebody who has a history from the year birth, maybe a little bit before then, and that history will be concluded on death, and in between you have to do something positive, and try to be positive is in fact negative. Because the word try means I'm including the possibility of failure. And so the idea of self-image is often centered around not just the psychophysical, but the more detailed aspect of that will be what we call personality. Now, personality, as we know, those who've been on the Enneagram will understand that persona means mask. It comes from the Greek dramas, where you put a mask on to convey feelings. Many dramatic traditions will have that kind of thing. From Java, who, for example, as a culture, will use puppets rather than human portrayals. And we know that from in Kerala, the famous, dancing there, with using masks and so on, or makeup and so on, conveying different personalities. So when we talk about strong self-image, that kind of thing, or having confidence, we seem to be talking about this personality, not maybe understanding that it's completely superficial. And if you ask a question, how can we help somebody to have a better sense of confidence and so on, then that itself is portraying your own personality. A kind of will to help people along with the assumption that the psychophysical thing is all there is. And so we have to try to get out of that. I'm using the word try again, get out of that habit. And the reason why I'm using the word try again is because, well, it reminds me of a driving school in Zimbabwe called Try Again. And then there was another school says, and again. So in that sense, we have to understand that any so-called progression is never linear. It is always a general trend upwards is what we call progress, with the possibility of a few ups and downs, a few irregularities on the way. And if it wasn't like that, then we would have nothing to correct. If it was all linear, we'd be sailing along. Now, any endeavor that we have, that we make, has to take into account the fact that there is something behind, as it were, everything that is manifesting through the eyes, the ears, in fact, all the parts that we assemble, we call body, and also all the parts assembled that we call mind. And that we can call divine grace. Something like a fluid force or energy behind everything that manifests as the world we see. If you take, for example, revolutionary artists in the 20th century, they said, we've had enough of our classical art, our classical painting. We know what that is, we've done with that. But with the development of photography, photographs can portray something, the likeness of somebody, very quickly. And although it's in black and white when it was first developed, or maybe brown and white, I suppose, to start with, there was still the understanding that we need to move away from a classical way of thinking. Supposing you see in nature a tree, and you say, let me paint a landscape that includes a tree. You could try and duplicate exactly that. Now, it may be a good painting, it may be a bad painting. If it's a good painting, it will say it's not just a tree, there's a spirit in it. There is life. I'm painting life. I'm feeling life. I'm feeling the spirit of it. And I'm portraying that spirit. I'm bringing that spirit to life on a canvas. Which means it's not exactly a duplicate of what I'm seeing. Then the other way is this: supposing I'm blind. I've never seen a tree in my life before. All of a sudden my sight gets back. I don't see tree. I see colors and shapes. Supposing I focus on colors and shapes, a new interpretation of things, light and shade, and see it in its vivid aspect, then I may not paint exactly a replica of a tree. And this is actually how much of the modern art developed. Looking at something that you could paint classically and saying, I like to see it in a different way. And when I see it in a different way, I see the spirit inside it. So for example, if I see, let us take the tree again as an example, and then I explore the tree in greater depth, what will I come to? I'll come to a conclusion that it is all waves. We call these waves tanmatras, mere elements. By concentrating on a subject, we can see that it is more than the surface. Something is lying underneath it. And when we look at it closely, we see it as a series of grace flowing in a wave-like way, with increasing cooperation, increasing mixing, like mixing colors. And we see it as tanmatras. Supposing we have an eye to see that, we'll see things almost in a psychedelic way. Where is it coming from? It's coming from a dispenser of grace, something like the sun, that we won't dare to look at. Because if you dare to look at the sun, blindness is guaranteed. It'll damage your eyes. Rather than looking at the sun, we can look at what the sun is lighting up. All life is manifested, as it were, in the sense from the sun. And so when we come to our highest conclusion, our highest analysis of what is the source behind everything, we can see it's not to be beheld directly. Not with the eyes or the ears, not in the conventional way of seeing things. And so when we see, and I'm putting this in inverted commas, the absolute divine within us that we call Atman, and see the glory that it's manifesting, and take it from any aspect of that glory back to its origin. This is called a kind of meditation, or a different way of seeing things in such a way that we register nothing is to be changed, nothing is to be helped. And that leads to an aspect that we call faith. We can easily let go, and when we let go, we allow divine grace to be our inspiration. We have that phrase amongst inventors and so on. It came to me, an idea came to me. It's as if something entered into me from outside. It came to me. Now, in our yogic philosophy, psychology, if you will, we surely understand it didn't come like an alien from outside. You know, we have this inside-outside perception. I blessed somebody. It's like a dove floated out of your head and did something, you know. And we curse somebody, like a thunderbolt comes out and the other person falls down dead. It's not like that at all. That's our conception of it, because we have this inside-outside duality. If you do away with that, you see it's only divine grace sitting there. And all ideas then can be seen as a divine grace, a kind of broadcast floating, arriving at our substation, our transmitter, and we can do what we want with this free gift of divine grace that is flowing. When we see that in a person, that kind of understanding that creates a kind of wiring that enables behavior, a certain enlightened behavior, has a transforming effect. Thought is a suction. So we suck things toward us. Supposing we want to design something, we want an outcome of some kind of thing, and the positive thinkers say, visualization, visualize something. Is that workable? Is there any science in it? Yes, we say yes. Whatever you think of comes to you, good or bad. It's indiscriminate. If you think of bad, bad comes to you. If you curse, curse will come to you. If you love, love will come to you. This is an absolute law. It's the law of sowing and reaping, what we call karma. It's the law of giving and taking, giving and receiving. So we have to carefully craft what we do with this grace that is coming toward us and flowing within us, called thought. And by crafting this carefully, it has the capacity to change because it doesn't stop, it has no boundaries. Thought being a suction, where is it coming from? It's coming beyond the waves of the Tanmatras. It's coming from a cosmic mind, what we typically call in religion God. God is the supreme thinker. It is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. And for a devotee, it is our supreme love. It is our protector. We love the protector. Protects us all. Now the protection can come in some peculiar ways. Supposing you are a mother or a father and you have a small child and the child wants to explore what is fire and moves its hand toward the fire and is about to burn itself. Won't a loving mother or father take measures, pull the child back, give the child a lesson? What will the child feel? Humiliation? Yes. Confusion? Yes. Will the child express this as crying? Probably. Will the child understand as an adult understands? Probably not. So why should we do it? So love has to rule. Love is the supreme value, as I have mentioned before. But it's harsh at times and kind at other times. There's a requirement for it. So we have to have enough discrimination to decide what we should apply, how we should apply it, what is the best measures we can take without any knee-jerk reactive impulse in us. Naturally, the impulse, when you see the child advancing the hand toward the fire, is let us save the child, let us pull the child back. And so that's a kind of impulse which naturally is beneficial, is good. But when we notice an impulse which is egocentrically oriented, that means that it knocks our self-image in some way, then the reaction from there is likely to introduce negativity not only in ourselves, but in the whole environment. So when we talk about stronger self-image, when we talk about confidence, when we talk about structuring the future, we have to take into account a divine grace that is flowing, that gives us everything. It gives us life energy. It gives us the capacity to deal with the manufacturing potential of thought itself. It gives us the capacity to evaluate. In short, it gives us the capacity to grow. Now, a tree grows, a small sapling can grow. It doesn't prevent harsh weather. It doesn't prevent snow. It hasn't got an anti-snow shield around it. It doesn't prevent rain. Rain is good. It doesn't prevent a thunderstorm. It doesn't prevent lightning. And yet, it has its own innate way of dealing with all of these things, because inserted in it is the living grace of the divine. And we don't notice it normally, but it's good to do so. The fact that a human being is present at all is in itself an evidence of divine input, a protective field being given to us, a creative field being given to us, and more than that, a playground in which we can play. All of this is a free gift. From time to time, I think it's probably good to say thanks and feel grateful for it. Now, all of this, what has all this got to do with confidence and so on? So we have to resort to some examples. And because we are talking about Vedanta, one of the great examples of this would be in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is suffering from a lack of confidence. So any psychological condition that you can think of that people are suffering from can really all be summarized in this despondency of Arjuna in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And it reflects our human life. We're not always happy. There was a good question yesterday, not a question, a kind of comment. The person said to me, many of my work colleagues are atheists, and they say, if you ask what is the purpose of life, they say enjoyment. But they don't really believe it. Because if they believed it, they would be hedonistic. They would have no morals whatsoever. They would be utilitarians and say, let's do the worst we can if it serves our purposes. If it gives us enjoyment, why not? If we begin at the year dot and end at the year dot plus, then in between we'll just create the maximum enjoyment and pleasure we possibly can for ourselves. So enjoyment is not a total experience as an attitude of generosity for all, let everybody enjoy. It is purely centered on, let me enjoy. And yet, how many people have that attitude? There are a few minorities who get into this hedonistic lifestyle, but even so, they also must realize you can't sustain it all the time. The fact that you make an effort toward it means that you haven't got it permanently or always, and it doesn't last. So the example will be taking alcoholic drinks. You might find that's an enormous pleasure. You might find the world looks differently because all the personalities all change in the pub, no doubt. Everybody looks different. Everybody's enjoying. All good, wonderful. Purpose of it, enjoyment. Enjoy company, enjoy the feeling of the whatever that gives you and so on. Enjoy the lack of inhibition that comes with it. These all seem good until the morning. And in the morning, you wonder, why do I have such a severe something worse than a migraine, something like that? Well, you know why. And then why would you repeat that? So we are going from a pleasure-pain syndrome. So how does Krishna deal with Arjuna's lack of confidence? Well, Krishna goes straight to the heart of the matter. He bypasses this personality, he bypasses the psychophysical, and he goes straight to the heart and says, you are the immortal Atman. Don't think that water can harm you, or fire can burn you, or wind can dry you. You're none of that. You're not this body, you're not this mind. And so your essential nature cannot change, cannot improve, cannot be depleted. It is fullness personified. It is the echo of the peace prayer. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. Everything is full. There is no emptiness anywhere. There's nothing therefore to be corrected. The correcting attitude will only give you opportunities, because thought is a suction. Let us put it as a gift from God. Come on, my child, I've given you something more to correct. Like a school teacher being given a pile of papers. Correct, correct, correct. What are you doing on your holidays? Correcting all the essays. What are you doing on the public holiday weekends, etc.? Correcting everything. Good. What do you want to do next weekend? Please give me more stuff to correct. If you wish to be a professional corrector, there'll be multiple opportunities for that to occur. So, anybody who is before us, and we are concerned out of love, no doubt, that a person may have a lack of confidence. It's not that we're denying Arjun has a lack of confidence, and we know the cause. Cause is well described. But the solution has to be at the very depth of the problem. I do not have faith in my own divine self. I do not feel that I have infinite possibility within me beyond the borders of self-image. That inside me is immortal and free, full and perfect. And that is why I honor the dignity of man, the dignity of mankind. That is why I'm concerned for humankind. That is why I'm concerned for the person. And that is why I have no wish to correct the person, but to point out, simply to point out, only one thing. You have infinite possibilities, and it manifests in a human way. And it manifests in this way. When something is done well, when the person does something well, when the person has skills and talents, there's no person on the planet that doesn't have it, then you praise the person. You tell the person that this is your divine gift. You encourage them in it. You make sure that they know their worth, their special place in the universe, divinely designed. And when they do something which is shaky, which lacks that direction and confidence and what have you, you, like any team player, do coaching for improvement. Not blaming, not criticizing, coaching for improvement. Let's take the example of sport. Supposing you have the game of, I don't know, let's say football, and somebody is good at heading but not good at passing. Then will you condemn that person or take that person aside kindly and say, you're good at heading, fantastic, you're the best in the team. However, you're not so good at passing, but we can correct it. Come on, let's practice. Let's show you how to do some things better. The whole team can help if you like. Let's do some practice, continuously, and at every advancement stage you give praise, lavish praise. Now this has come out in modern psychology, where it is better to praise rather than to, the rod and the carrot and the stick, I suppose. It's better to not to use the stick so much, but to encourage, not just humans. If you want to train animals, you do the same thing. You encourage animals. You don't look at them directly, indirectly, and the best way of dealing with people is indirectly. If you want to make sure that you're friends with a dog or a donkey or any animal or horse, don't look it in the eye. Look away. Extend your hand nicely. Let the animal sniff your hand and your fingers and so on and so forth. Even licking may take place, it's okay. And then gradually you put the hand behind the ear, give a little stroke, give a little pat. What is the animal doing? It's giving you a sideways glance. It's wanting to establish a sense of security and trust. Can I trust this person or am I in danger? So we always have to establish trust. That means we have to be a living example of whatever we feel is the perfect outcome for another person. Otherwise, you see, somebody will point to an unreliable authority and say, well, you asked me to do this, you can't do it. Or you don't do it, and you expect me to do it. This often comes out in parent-children conflicts. See, you want me to do this, but I see you yourself are not doing it. And sometimes in households, the roles are switched. The parent becomes the child, and the child becomes the parent. But all the time, they are learning. And we learn principally by examples. Where do we get our examples from? Saints, mystics, holy people. That's why Ramakrishna encourages us, seek holy company. Read the life of a saint and get the inspiration from that. We try every time there is a birthday of one of the direct monastic disciples of Ramakrishna, we try to give a little life story and their life teachings, because all of these are inspirations. Whether it is Ibn Arabi of the Sufis, or Rumi, or whether it is the Lord Jesus, or whether it is Lord Buddha, or whether it is Sri Ramakrishna, or whether it is any one of these holy people who have struggled even, who haven't come out perfect. St. Augustine, the most flawed character, and yet his confessions show his honesty, his truthfulness, his humility, but also his direction in spiritual life. These are inspirations because if one or two people have done it, they may be in a minority, but it gives us the inspiration of the possibility of doing that. Now, every person has these possibilities. When we are able to highlight these possibilities and tell them how unique they are, what unique contribution they have, because of unique skills and talents and abilities, automatically their self-confidence changes and grows. So it's up to us to do two things. To see the beautiful manifestation that we call design. A person has a certain destiny already planned out, marked out. You can call it divine will. So that's on the one side. And the other side is to encourage a person to manifest that possibility inside them. But underneath that is a central purpose, a central goal, expressed by Vivekananda as each soul is potentially divine. And what is the goal then? To manifest this divinity. By manifesting their individual, God-given, if you will, talents and abilities, we are also assisting in the other aspect of manifesting their divinity from within. But it requires us to have these twofold insights. The manifested version of the person that we call a person, who we know has all the great abilities, and the unmanifest side, which is the divine. And the in-between, divine grace flowing between the two. One, just as warmth and heat flows from the sun that we cannot conveniently look at. It's inadvisable to gaze at the sun. You make yourself blind. Don't do it. But look at the manifested version of it. And then, unlike the analogy of the sun, we have the opportunity to enter into that being, as it were because it is our own true nature. Krishna, knowing this, points out, not only your nature is divine, but your special skill and talent is a military person. That's your divine path. An accountant, that's their spiritual path. A mother, that's your spiritual path. A student, that's your spiritual path. An IT person, that's your spiritual path. A teacher, that's your spiritual path. A doctor, that's your spiritual path. Every one of these roles is a spiritual path. That's your spirituality. If you're a mother, be a better mother. If you're a doctor, be a better doctor. Be the best doctor you can. If you're an accountant, be the best accountant you can. Whatever the role is, be the best at what you have, what you can, because being the best means that you are using the best gifts given to you by divine dispensation. Knowing that, and knowing also the personal aspect of it, that it is not just an impersonal divine within you, because that impersonal divine has come, in the case of Arjuna, as a personality that we call Krishna, an entity that can be talked to, questions can be asked, wisdom and advice can flow, sympathy can flow, love can flow. It's not just a philosophical discourse, the Bhagavad Gita. It's, first of all, it's a song, it's a Gita. It's a wonderfully artistic expression. And secondly, and what are we celebrating? Secondly, it is celestial, it is divine, not just an ordinary song. Like on a radio, you switch the radio on and hear a love song or something. Or you hear the songs that help you to get into depression, such as country music in America. All about, somebody who had an accident and their life fell apart and so on and so forth. I don't know. There's a kind of theme like that. But it's an elevating song. It's a song that lifts our spirit because it leads us to sublime bliss. It takes away all the fear. It takes away all the obstacles that we put in our own way, thinking that this world is our only reality and its purpose is enjoyment, leading to desires, endless desires. And the ignorance is that these desires will give us fulfillment, and they don't, as soon as we have a realization of the hollowness of it. And I always give the example, suppose you ask a small child, what is heaven to you? Unlimited ice cream, he may say. All right. Today I'm going to fulfill your heavenly dreams. 1 ton of ice cream, please eat it. After a few spoonfuls, I say, thank you, enough. Thank you. I had enough. Now I'm feeling a little queasy. It's a great temptation to think that our post-mortem desires, our desires in this life, will be fulfilled in the most post-mortem condition. A lot of theologies are like that. Don't worry about this life. In heaven, you'll get it. And so, for example, heaven is portrayed, let us say, you live in a desert area and you think the oasis is a wonderful temporary relief from the dryness and the dust of the desert. Heaven, therefore, must be a place with fountains and abundance of waters and springs. It must be full of heavenly things, perfumes, and heavenly fruit, delicious fruit. All kinds of exotic foods where a bonus is added, you never get fat. Wonderful. Well, that's just a kind of version of an earthly desire. And we know earthly desires will only be temporarily fulfilled until the desire rises again and again and again. And our whole goal of fulfilling a desire becomes hollow and shallow because it never happens. For that reason, we keep trying. Get out of that. On the basis that you are much more than that. You're deeper than that. Your bliss is much more profound than superficial enjoyment. And forget about the self-image, which goes along with desires and fears. But underneath that is infinite possibilities, not just manifested from the divine as human qualities, but deeper still, your nature is bliss itself. Existence itself, consciousness itself is our Vedantic teaching. And that is why we want to live. That is why we want happiness, because our nature is bliss. And that is why we have intelligence to sort it all out, because our nature is consciousness. These are just a threefold root, as it were, of all our manifested skills and talents. Right. Now, supposing we do have a legitimate desire for something. We're not saying all desires are not good. Some desires are good. Supposing we have a desire to relieve world hunger or create world peace. Are these not good desires? Of course, they're good desires. Supposing we want to give somebody more self-confidence. It's a good desire. Then we have to change our thinking, knowing that thought is a suction. That all we have to do is appeal to cosmic mind, mobilize it in a way. And the way we do it is by using the grace of thought and structuring what we want, being definite about it, and leaving it then to the cosmic mind to carry on. Where did we get the inspiration? From the divine. If we didn't get it from the divine, it's going to fail. If we get it from the divine, it will succeed. Let us take where I'm seated now. The center, the affiliated center of the Ramakrishna Math Mission, is sitting here in Dublin in Ireland. Wonderful. How did it arise? Will it be successful? If it is the Lord's will, yes. So far, it has been. So far, building found. So far, what some people consider to be miracles have occurred. Will it keep going? Yes, if it's God's will. And who will make it keep going? Oh, don't worry about that. Don't you think that the Lord who spins all the galaxies, creates rhythm and harmony everywhere, digests your food, pumps your heart, will not do whatever is necessary for the good, for the dharma, for the good of all, where people can benefit, where people can discover this principle of inherent freedom, where people can also explore their infinite possibilities. The center that we had in Zimbabwe was keen to encourage poets, painters, writers, musicians. In other words, we are saying this divine input, which you call yourself, comes not as a blank. It comes with inherent talents and abilities. And all of us can explore it. We are only tapping in a certain amount. There is a myth statement with positive thinkers who say we are using only 10% of our brain or our mental capacity. Why is it a mythical thing? Because it's something somebody said somewhere and everybody took it to be true. Who measured it? How can you quantify it? Nobody asks these questions. So many myths arise like that. But behind it is certainly a true principle. We're only using a small fraction, typically speaking, of our capacity, of our infinite capacity. And all the knowledge is within us. And all these possibilities are within us, manifesting. And the only thing that restricts us, and we should tell everybody this, is the obstacle which are generally put out as fivefold. But it comes back to one thing: ignorance of our own nature, ignorance of the reality. Another obstacle is egoism that restricts the manifestation of these possibilities. And that then gives us this small-minded plan, small-minded strategy that we will achieve everything with this pain and pleasure syndrome going on, attraction, repulsion, attraction, repulsion. The whole of nature runs on this attraction, repulsion. But in a way, it's indicating the possibilities, and another way, it's restricting our view. So what we call the universe as constructed of gravity, electrical energy, inertia, and so on, is an indication of the infinite possibility of the undivided, the unchanging, and the infinite. But at the same time, it's obscuring our view. This revelation, obscuration, is what we call Maya. And we should see it for what it is, a delightful play of the divine on itself, there only being one entity. The player providing us with the playground, the actors, the players, the producers, the directors, and the plot. What is the plot? The plot is falling, call it gravity. That's where everything is coming from. Who are the players? Hydrogen and helium. Fine, take it like that. Manifesting as this, ultimately, after eons of time, crafting itself, developing itself, and all right, come on, be actors on the stage. Not introducing cruelty, we ourselves do that. A benign entity like that. Always structuring harmony. structuring things in such a way that when things go one way, there's an automatic corrective action that goes the other way. In this way, this attraction repulsion is why we're in the universe, and it's how it works. It's the mechanism of how it works. Acknowledging that, what should we do? Observe it nicely and use it. And the best thing, the most powerful thing we have is the use of the current which we call thought. The power of thought is infallible. So be sure you are clear about what you're thinking, but be sure that the thinking that you use has none of the traps of egocentricity. Everything is for the benefit of all round. If it wasn't like that, supposing we had a God that says, I'm favoring 2 or 3 children. Some theologies are like that. A race is a chosen race. We are only the children of God. Others are kind of inferior. Now you could put that on one religion, but no, it happens in every religion, without exception. You might say Hindus are broad-minded, Buddhists are broad-minded. Well, I've come across elite clubs within Buddhism and within Hinduism also. And what's behind it? We are elite, we are special, we are the chosen people. Supposing there was a God like that, what kind of fair-minded entity would that be? Then we ignore the rest of the world and make it difficult for everybody else. So that's not the case. The case is there's harmony provided for everyone, all around. And that includes pain, because we learn more from pain than any other thing. And we shouldn't shy away from it. And pain is inevitable. But also a higher perspective is also possible. All of us are naturally looking for an ideal of perfection. I don't think there's any such thing as an atheist. They may not use the word God, but if they weren't aiming for some higher perfect ideal, then life would truly have no purpose. And yet everybody thinks there's a purpose. They might not declare it in those terms, but that's how they are. So, encourage the person, understand the creative structure of thought, use both of it, use them together, encourage everybody to the highest. If you have a student who's taking a bachelor degree, encourage them toward a master's. If they have a master's, encourage them toward a doctorate. If they have a doctorate, encourage them to use that for the benefit of everyone. If there is a painter, encourage him to be an outstanding painter. If the poet, encourage that person to be a world-class poet, where everybody can enjoy the work. There's no good being a painter and saying, I've painted 3 pictures over the last 3 weeks. Oh, wonderful. Are you having an exhibition? No, I think I'll keep them for myself. Nobody else can see it. I painted it for enjoyment, and now I'm going to enjoy it. Finished. Well, what about others? We have to have this generosity of spirit everywhere at all times. But we have to also understand this glory of the divine sits behind it, and our effort is minimal. All we do is open the door a little bit. Ramakrishna's language, the wind of divine grace is ever flowing. We just have to set the sail. We do the minimum. And all the crooked paths get made straight in biblical language. So these are some comments to do with both of these questions.
Thank you, Swamiji. A very good lecture.
All right, we'll finish it off there. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.